Hello, everybody. Jim Malone here, coming to you live on Dallas Trading Floor. It is Tuesday, the 27th of uh, of of, of April. I almost said August there. What do you know? And we got a pretty good show for you today. There's a lot of earnings that are coming out. It looks as if Tesla pulled back a little bit, but it seemed to have regained some strength. It's kind of weird market. Also, Microsoft announced, and they seem to be firm. The Dow is down though a little bit, so that's kind of a concern here. Yeah, so we just kind of want to get into some of the slides and go from there. Oh, wait a minute, there we go. It's funny. I'm still learning how to use this thing. Can you believe it? After all this time. Well, anyways, here we go. Basically, Microsoft is, the earnings are firm on Microsoft, which is good. The Nasdaq is down just slightly, but it's still above 1400, and that's a key level for the Nasdaq. So that's looking pretty good. I'm feeling much more comfortable about that. I did close my bull spread on Tesla. I just it started to go south, and so I said, well, maybe now is time to make a decision, and I closed it. I basically got out with skin on my teeth and made $7.50. Wow, all that work for $7.50, but hey, better than losing money, I guess. There you go. And of course, I put all this into the Discord room that we have, and kind of showing how I'm trading. I have a really nice. I opened a really nice trade on Cloudflare as well, and I'll show you that in just a second. Here is Cloudflare, and it seems to be making a new run for at least for the buy point. So I did decide that I was going to put a bull call spread on this one, just because it was looking so strong. We'll see how it trades. It's gonna and earnings are coming out in 9 days, basically, on May 6th. So that's coming up, and that's also available for people that are in the in the Discord room as well. Okay, just wanted to show you bulls and bears. There has been some more bullish sentiment. We're currently up to about 63.70%. Bears are at 16.70%. So the bears are moving lower, and the bulls are moving up. So that's kind of good. Now, of course, when the bears get above the bulls, when they kind of cross, because normally the market is kind of bullish, that's when we got to watch out. But this is a psychological indicator, and it's pretty accurate actually in terms of things. So look at to look at it. I did move into one stock today. Probably you're going to regret it. It's a symbol PATH. It's a very interesting stock. It's down, of course, from where I bought it. I bought in right at about 79, and then it moved south on me. Ouch! I'm not quite down 7%, but I may be out of this one tomorrow. I just kind of got a little shaken out of it. I do like the idea. This company has bots that do repetitive tasks, so it's a lot of big companies are buying into it. It's a IPO, so it's got an IPO base, so it's a little bit more risky. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. I have a very small position in it, but that's something that might be of interest. Apple, of course, is holding steady. It seems to be a little bit of resistance at about 135, and that's where my second call is. I have basically actually I have 3 covered calls in this. One at 130, which is going to be exercised. One at 135, which probably will be exercised, and I'm not so sure about the one at 137, but that's kind of how it stacks up for me. Very small position in Microsoft. I did put a spread on Qorvo. I do think that we're going to see it move above 200. At least that's what I'm looking at the charts. Floor just keeps pretty steady. It hasn't really gone anywhere, but it hasn't gone down either, so that's a good thing. All right, so let's, without further ado, get to your questions here and see. Okay, so let's go to your questions. Let me pull up a new window here. And first question is on SNCY. I don't know what SNCY is. Let's just see what SNCY is. Yeah. Sun Country Airlines. I had this one on my, interestingly enough, I did have this one on my low cost list. So I'm kind of, I haven't really followed it as much since I put out that list, but I definitely kind of want to look to see sort of how it's been trading and see if there's anything, anything there. So let's pull up the chart here for Sun Country. Let's get it bigger. There we go. For Sun Country, let me take off that banner here for just a sec. Just there we go, so we can see it. But basically, Sun Country is. Let's look at the daily chart. This is kind of a IPO. It looks like there was a buy point. Interestingly enough, IPO base, and the pivot is at 38.38. Currently, it's at 40.82, so it's definitely within it's definitely within striking distance. Well, actually, just a little bit above, but it's still in a buy zone. It is, and you have to be a little bit careful about these IPO bases because we do have some falling volume here. But it does look like it IPO'd at 24, and then it moved straight up to this buy point, which is about 36, 38, 36. And then it pulled higher and then pulled back. So the question is, can we buy this thing? Well, I want to see it get some support. And really about the only place I believe that it can get support is at this 21-day line. So really right now, I think you've just got to wait on this one. These IPOs are tough to buy because you really need about 2 or 3 months to see how they're going to trade. It's got a decent checklist here, 44%. I wouldn't buy this one. I think I'd wait a little bit on this one. But definitely worth your time to watch list this thing. I think I think it's going to be, it potentially can be a very good airline. The thing I like about Sun Country over a lot of the other airlines out there is that with all the other airlines like American Airlines and airlines like that, they are dependent more on the business travel. Sun Country is a very low cost airline, and it's less dependent on that, and so it's probably going to benefit more when the economy reopens. But I can't really get all that excited right now about the airlines. I just can't. They just, for me, it's kind of in a situation that I think is a difficult situation. So I wouldn't be in this one right now. It's interesting, but I'd watch this one. I wouldn't really do anything other than that. Okay, let's see what will. Thoughts on semis? Well, it's funny. I'm really only in one semi right now, and that is Qorvo, QRVO, and I do like that one. As you can see, it's done pretty well here as of late. It's pulled back. It's still in the buy zone, and it's at 198.61 now. I do think that there is resistance right at 200 here. So the question is, will it get beyond that? Well, I'm not sure, but I do like this one. This is one of the semis that I do like. It's got a 100% checklist, which I like. The industry is fallen a little bit. It's 90. The semis, this is semiconductor manufacturing, has fallen a little bit to 90 out of 197. But I still like the sector a lot. And there's a lot of funds that are moving into this one too. So Fidelity Contra Fund has a major position. So this is one of the ones I do like in the sector. Now, there's some of the ones that I don't like in the sector so much. One of them being Intel. I don't think that has done as well. But I kind of want to go over sort of the ones that I think have the top relative strength. So here in the semiconductor sector is the ones with the top relative strength. The top relative strength is a Taiwanese company called United Micro, and then this other one, Amkor Technologies, and then the one I just talked about, Qorvo. That is basically it's got the 81. It's got 81 relative strength. Now, typically, I only like to look at stocks that have at least have least 80 at least have 80 or better. Now, this is the overall. This is the entire sector here. It's sort of been bouncing up and down this 50-day line, so it does look like it's on the mend. And there are some significant stocks. Let's look at the stocks that in the sector. Now, of course, the largest is Taiwan Semi. That's been having some issues. Again, some issues with Intel. Texas Instruments. This is probably the next one that I would look at, and it's TI. Texas Instruments. TXN is of course the symbol for it, and this one is a great stock. Oh, well, there we go. Now we get back. This one is a great stock. And I do think it is, it's got, the only thing is right now it'd be a little bit difficult to buy this right now because it's earnings in just a few days. I mean, it's basically on the 2nd of May is when the earnings for TI come out. So it's very, very soon on that. So I really wouldn't buy it into earnings like this. But I think after earnings, I think you probably want to put this one on your watch list. Now, there are some issues here. The relative strength line is only at 66. That's due to the fact that it had been trading below that line back in June of last year, but it just steadily moved up with strength. Now, here's the thing about Texas Instruments. Texas Instruments is very big in the chips for self-driving cars. So I think that's a really good area, and that's just one that you might want to kind of take a look at. Now, I wouldn't necessarily, it's not a buy recommendation or anything, and please, everything here is just for educational purposes only, but I do think that it is strengthening, and it has a very good list of large funds in it. As you can see, it's being acquired by some of the largest funds, and there's 3816 funds, and it's continuing to move up. Of course, this is one of the oldest chip companies in the world. They basically invented the integrated circuit along with Intel. So I do think that I think Texas Instruments currently is in a stronger position than Intel is. And this is the one I think that if you're looking for a very large cap semi, and I think that's kind of one of the best places to look, this is the one you kind of want to look at, Texas Instruments, at least for right now. So let's see if there's any news on it. No, not really any news on it. So this is, if in the semis, this is what I would look for, Texas Instruments. Let's see if we have some people that are watching on TikTok. See if I can answer some questions here for them. Thoughts on Apple? This comes from TikTok. Thoughts on Apple? I know you're bullish, but it seems to dip after the reports. Well, here, it's funny what moves the stock. A lot of times, it's buying rumor, selling news. I think that's the old saw. It's off a little bit in after hours, but not significantly. 25, basically down 25 cents. So not really a whole lot. I'm sorry, it's earnings in one day. So we'll see how this one performs, but this is set it up very, very nicely. And I do think that if it clears, I started buying it at 127, of course, as it moved up here, and it moved above the 50-day moving average. It's moved above the 21-day, and it's hanging right on the 10-day line. So I really don't see any problems with the action on Apple. I still think it's pretty good, and I think it's looking fairly good. So we'll see how it trades through earnings, but there you go. All right, Will, thanks for that question. You bought V at 208.20. Okay, so that's Visa, of course. A stock that you might want to look to diversify. That's very good. You're right in the buy zone on that. I think that, Will, that's a very good place to have bought it. It came right through that buy point, that 228.23 buy point. You bought it right in the buy zone. I think no, I'm sorry, you bought it right below the buy zone. Yeah, you bought it very, very well. Okay, you bought it on the reversal. Looks like I'm just trying to see exactly where you bought it. I think you bought it on the reversal. That would be a great move if you did. Let's just kind of draw that line from the top here down. Let's kind of see. So it looks as if, yeah, you bought it at a very good place. You bought it basically as it was moving above the the 50-day line. That's a very good place to have bought it, and it's just moved right on up. So I really don't see anything. I think it may go a little bit higher. Here's the thing: you probably want to protect your profit if you're in it at this point. Here's what I would do on this. I don't think it's going to revert. Until it reverses lower, of course, we won't know this. But I think as long as it's trading above the 10-day line, and that's at 224.50. So 224.50, I think you're in good shape. So I would just let this thing roll, and I think it may go a little bit higher. I think that's a very good buy, and yeah, I think it's going to do very, very well for you. Just want to look, kind of as an alternative to another stock that I think is setting up very, very nicely, and that's PayPal, PYPL. I'm probably going to do a trade on this one as well. This is one you might want to consider as well, because it's a similar type of stock to Visa, but it's a little bit more modern in terms of it has exposure to Bitcoin and a lot of the other things that are very good. It's starting to set up really now. It's got a buy point of 277.86, and it's right now at 269.26. So this has been showing some strength. It's off a little bit today though. Let's kind of look at the weekly chart on this one to see. Yeah, the weekly chart is looking very, very good. This is a cup base, and it looks like it's moving into a buy zone, in a cup base. Now, cup bases sometimes fail. It's not the best of patterns, but it looks like, it's forming a little bit of a handle. So let's look at the volume. The volume's a little bit low. I'd like to see a little bit more volume, but it's definitely going in the right direction. It looks like we're drawing down this overhead supply here. It looks like and what I'm talking about, what I mean by overhead supply, well, basically, if you draw kind of where it's been, as you can see, it went up all the way up to 309, but then it started to fall. So a lot of the people that bought right at the last minute there, they still are holding on to the stock. So as it comes close to this level, they're going to want to sell. So there might be some resistance right below 300 here. Basically at about 286. So that's going to be, but I definitely think it has at least 20 to go, and it can move right up into that pivot. Now, if it pulls through this, it's going to go higher. I do believe that at least over the next few months, PayPal is likely to go higher. And I just kind of want to show you the weekly and the monthly chart. The monthly chart on this one is really spectacular. It's been around, of course, since 2005. But I think this is one you might want for a long-term. This is sort of a long-term hold here, and you might want to diversify your portfolio a little bit to holding some PayPal, because I do think it's a really good stock, and I think especially for the long term, I think it has some real legs on it that are good. So let's take a look at. Okay, are you buying any Amazon before the potential split? Well, you know what? I don't know enough about the split. Fortunately, our intern Blaze Cardoza, he was texting me just a few minutes ago regarding this. I was working on other stuff and I was oblivious. But that could be a very good that could be a very good situation depending on if it splits. And it might split, and I don't know, who knows how much it's going to split. It may split 10 for 1. Who knows? But I want to find out a little bit more about this before I make any kind of prognostication. Right now, Amazon is one of the most expensive stocks in the market in general, so it does kind of need, to get back into a trading range, and a lot of times that's why, that's why companies will split a stock. All your economics professors out there, they all say, well, it doesn't matter. A split doesn't matter, but you know what? In reality, it does, because typically the best time to buy a split, of course, is when it's announced, and then up to the announcement date, and then that's when you want to sell. So I'm going to have hopefully some more information on this if this actually comes to pass, because if it does, then we might be able to get in on a really good situation. And the way you play this is very simple, is that when it's announced, that's when you start acquiring the stock, and then it will trade up to the day of the split, and then it will trade down. So you want to buy it, hold it to the splits, let it split, let it come down, and then it will usually move higher once more. So that's a great way that, splits can be, especially on a high profile stock like this, can be a very, very good thing. Now, of course, everyone is going to tell you out there, all the economists are going to tell you, no, it doesn't make any difference. But you know what? only the strongest stocks split because you don't want a stock to go down in price. So that's a good thing. And they can be very, very good thing. Any good real estate stocks? Well, gosh, there is one real estate stock that I like, and it's kind of a weird one. Um, not everyone, not everyone would agree with me on this one, but there is a company called ELS, Equity Lifestyle, and this company is in a very interesting industry. This company owns trailer parks. Wow, trailer parks. Why would you want a stock that owns trailer parks? Well, the thing about trailer parks are that they're the most profitable form of commercial real estate. Why? Because in the last 20 to 30 to 50 years, well, really, we were 50 years ago we were building affordable housing, but in the last 30 years, this country has failed every way, which way, to build affordable housing. And unfortunately, I wish this were not true, but it is. Wages in this country are not really going up. I mean, they are going up for the people that have good jobs and all that kind of stuff, but for the average guy who works down at Albertsons or works at the hardware store and his wife works at 7-Eleven, it's been it's been a really tough 20, 30 years. I mean, actually, the purchasing power of the lower half of this country, about lower 40%, has actually gone down. People are actually now have less purchasing power than they did in the 1970s when I was when I was younger. And all the areas in the country are trying to build affordable housing, but it ends up being nothing. They end up just paying off the people that pay them money and all that kind of stuff. Well, all that is kind of bad news. But one piece of good news out there is that there is one area where people have been successful at building low-cost housing, and that's been in trailer parks. Now, I know that it has a very bad reputation, and I'm not, I'm not speaking for its reputation, but one thing I do know is that this is a very profitable area, and there's not many really good trailer parks in the country. Nobody wants one next to them, so there's almost no supply. And this company, it's actually Sam Zell is behind this. He's one of the real estate moguls in Chicago. He has put this together, and this one has just been a great performer. It's right now at a buy point. The buy point is 68.52. Now, most of these parks that they own are in Florida, which is growing, Arizona, which is growing, Texas, which is growing. Basically, they're in the Sun Belt, and this has been a very successful stock. If you want to be in the real estate industry, this is not a bad one. Let's just kind of look. It's a REIT, so I mean, there's a lot of REITs out there, but this REIT has done very, very, very well. Now, there is another one called the Power REIT. Let's see what that one's doing. And that one owns basically railroads. This is another good area, by the way. Warren Buffett got into this hugely. I don't even know if that's a word, hugely. But this is another really good one. It's symbol PW. Now, it's not really a traditional REIT like you would think of, like owning a shopping center. By the way, you don't want shopping center REITs. You don't want really apartment REITs. They don't have very good returns. But interestingly enough, railroads happen to have very good return. Now, these guys own railroads in West Virginia. Now, you would think, God, that's a horrible place, but well, guess what? Not so much. It's very profitable because you got to get the coal to the market. Now, even though they're phasing out coal, you got to use these guys' railroads. So this is a good little REIT, and it's doing very well. And it's basically it's moved above the 21-day line. It's not a very widely traded stock, only got a daily volume of not that many shares. But this is one you probably want to put on your list. PW is the symbol, and then the other one is Equity Lifestyle. So those are kind of interesting real estate plays that you might get some traction on. Real estate, is some real estate stocks are doing well, but most of them not so much. But these are interesting little areas. What do you think of net? Well, I just put together a bull put spread on net. I just put out a bull put spread on net. So that is definitely something that I've been looking at. So let's take a look at the chart, NET, and what this bull put spread does basically is to be, buying calls, buying the 85 calls and then selling the 95 calls. So basically what I'm looking for this to do is to move from about 85 up to about 95. That's what I'm looking for in the short term on Cloudflare. And I've basically annotated this chart. So basically, there's relatively low overhead supply. As you can see, this is the overhead supply here. It's moved. This line that I've drawn here is the reversal line, and it's definitely reversed higher. And also, you can see there's quite a bit of volume that's coming in. So the earnings on this are basically on May, just in a few days. So, but I did do a spread on this one, and this is available to people that are on the that are on the Vinny the Vinny platform. So it's vinny.com. Let me see if I can give you the exact URL. Now, this one I don't think is. I think this one is only for the members, but it's basically www.vinny.com/u/Dallas Trading Floor, and that is the what that one is that is a bull call spread on net. So I do like Cloudflare a lot. I think it's going to do very well through earnings. It may not. It's probably going to have a little bit of a loss, but that is expected. So it is looking pretty good, I think, right now. Thoughts on Zillow Class and A and C? Good question. I don't like Zillow's model, to be honest with you. I think that they're trying to move into and compete against realtors, which I understand, but I think that I think that overall the stock has been moving. It has been moving lower, and so I wouldn't really be a buyer at this point. I think it might have reversed if you draw this trend line, but it's still below the 20. It's still below the 50-day moving average, so that is problematic. At the least, I'm gonna just kind of put an alert on this line here, and what that does basically is that it looks like it's moved above that, but I want to set alert to see if it moves back down below it. It looks like it's going to move up to the 50-day moving average, and that's that's about at let's see at 141. Looks it looks like it's going to move up to that line, but then the question is, can it move through that? It seems as if it's tried to move through it once, it was rebuffed, and I think it might be rebuffed again. So here's my take on Zillow. I don't think I would be in it. There's a lot of issues here. The checklist is not bad. It's my minimum on the checklist, of course, is 66. This has a 66 checklist. There are a lot of funds in this. As well, very good funds. Over 1,000 funds are in this, but I just don't like this sector. I think that they're in the. They say that they're in the internet content sector, which I think is a good sector, but I think the particular business that they're in, they're coming up against the National Association of Realtors. There's a lot of different. There's just a lot of different competition. So, I personally will be staying away from Zillow right now. I personally am going to be staying away from Zillow. Just my opinion on it. All right, so let's look at OCG. It's Aquin. I think this is Aquin. Oh, by the way, if you're new, and you want to take a look at the charts and everything that we're displaying, super easy to do. All you have to do is go to my profile, hit the link, it says beacons, and then scroll down, and you'll see the feed for the YouTube feed, and it's live with all the charts and everything. So you might be interested in seeing that. Let's look at NEO first, because that is, it may be seeing some life. I read something on this that, people are starting to see some life in NEO. I've been out of it for a while, to be honest. I do have this trend line here that I've drawn. I've been waiting for this reversal, and I've been waiting for it to move above the 50-day moving average. It's still, it's making progress against that. I would watch this one. I want to confirm a little bit higher before I would be back into this one to see if we have a real reversal. Tesla announced earnings today, and it wasn't as good as they would have liked, and it pulled back a little bit. I had a Tesla bull call spread, but I closed it. You see it's down a little bit. Yeah, 704. So my key level on Tesla was 710. It's below that. That's why I closed. the spread. I think if Tesla is going to struggle, you're going to see NIO struggle too. So that kind of hopefully answers your question regarding NIO. So I think that it might be getting squeezed. I'd be really careful with NIO right now. There's just a lot of stuff. There's just a lot of stuff going on. So I would steer clear of that for right now. We're not in nearly as strong a market as we were. Okay, which IPO are you talking about? Oh, good question. Thank you for that. The IPO I was talking about is an interesting stock called symbol is PATH, PATH. It just IPO'd. I did buy a little bit of it today. I may have may live to regret that. It looks like it's stabilized a little bit. Here I have my notation. I bought in at 79.88 and I set the stop loss at 68.50. So that's kind of where it's been. This is the daily chart. Let's look at the 10-minute chart. It started out life basically here at about 59, and then this has been the chart. So hopefully it can hold at about 74. We will see. I may be out of this one, but I do like the overall. I do like this overall area. It's what it is it's a company that makes a robotic software that does repetitive tasks, and it can replace a lot of people that are online. It's kind of like a chatbot, but it does all kinds of other stuff too. And there's some very good support in it. Now the question is, will that matter? I don't know. You never know. It's got a 55 checklist. This is a little bit lower than I normally like to buy them. I do have a little bit of space in my small portfolio where I do buy these very speculative issues, and IPOs definitely fall into that category. So we'll see how this one does. But the stock I was talking about here is called UPath, and its symbol PATH. All right, so, okay. Samuel Smith, is it better to play spreads rather than buying stocks? Why do I do spreads? Well, right now, we have a relatively unstable market. I mean, we have a market that's moving kind of sideways, not really moving up as fast as we were. The reason I like to do spreads, everybody, is because, and this is part of my my Discord room. The reason I look at them very carefully is because I like to limit my risk. This is a very important thing for me. I like to limit the risk, especially when the market is really trading sideways. And you really kind of have to have different styles depending on the market. Now, last year, of course, the market was really moving up fast. I wanted to own those shares, especially those Tesla shares and those NVIDIA shares. I did very well on them, like a lot of other people did. I wanted to own those. I didn't want to use options or spreads. But now that the market has cooled off a bit and is trading more sideways, and sometimes down, I don't know. I kind of want to magnify my returns and limit my risk, and you can do that with spreads. And so, I talk a lot about this in the Discord, in the Discord room. And if you're interested in that, you can go and take a kind of a look at it. I think I had one spread that's up that you can just take a look at, but you can go directly to it at www.vinny.com/U/Dallas Trading Floor, all one word. So that gives you kind of a look at spreads and that kind of thing. But I do think that's a very good way to trade, to limit your risk on the downside and participate on the upside. So that's really what I like to do. All right, Michael, thank you very, very much for this question. Let's look at X. I almost pulled the trigger this morning. Let's look at X. Of course, X is U.S. Steel, everybody. I'm sure everybody knows that. X is U.S. Steel. Andrew Carnegie actually put this company together over 100 years ago. It's been around forever, and it's kind of waking up. Now, I think it's probably a good idea that you didn't pull the trigger on it. Now, earnings are in 2 days, so here's what I would do on X. I don't think you want to buy X until we've gone through earnings. So it's Tuesday today. They're going to announce after the bell on Thursday. I think it's time to wait on that one because we're right at a buy zone. The buy point is 24.46. So that's the buy zone. But we're below that now. So I want to be a little bit more conservative on this one because this has been a tough earning. This is going to be a tough earning season, even for some of the top rated stocks like X. So I think I would wait on this one, see how it trades, and then possibly on Friday take a look at possibly picking it up. But right now, I would buy no more than a half position. It does have a pretty good checklist, 77%, and the industry is looking very good. Steel producers are 17 out of 196. So that's a very strong endorsement that at least the market is saying, Mr. Market, Warren Buffett says, Mr. Market is saying that there's going to be a lot of demand for steel, at least in the near future, hopefully with this infrastructure spending that's going to go on. So the steel producers are going to do very well in this. Also, you're going to find that some of the large construction companies are going to do well in that too, like Granite Construction or Fluor. I own Fluor currently, and I did own Granite. So those are other ones you might want to kind of take a gander at, see if it works for you. Now, FCX is that's Freeport-McMoRan, and that's a very key stock because it's a major copper producer, FCX, and right now there are problems. I hate to say this, but there's problems in Peru where they produce a lot of copper. There's some labor disputes. So the price of copper is very key ingredient to all the industrial economies. So without copper, the biggest producer of copper is in Chile, but Freeport-McMoRan is also a very big producer of copper. Right now, FCX is in a buy zone. Okay, the buy point on this one is 37.51, and so right now we're in a buy zone. Now, could you buy this? Well, I typically like to buy it on an uptick, but I don't think this would be a bad place to buy FCX because it's showing a lot of strength. It's got its stellar checklist. The only thing it doesn't make here is that it's got an earnings per share of less than 80%. But the relative strength of this is very, very strong. So let's kind of take a look and see how FCX has been trading. Well, the last quarter, the sales were up 73%, but the profits, and that's the key here, because remember, this is a commodity-based stock. This isn't a growth stock. 419%. So this is doing great. Also, look, you kind of see all of these big funds that are jumping into this. I mean, 2 quarters ago, there were 1546 funds in it. Now there are 1752 as of March, and it may actually go higher. 43% of all the stock is owned by funds. So that's looking good. It's got a positive cash flow. So this stock is lining up very, very well. And I do think that it may go higher. So out of these 2 stocks, FCX and X, I think that you want to look at FCX. I think it's the better of the 2, and it is currently in a buy zone. So that is a good thing. And it does. It has gone through earnings. Earnings were up tremendously, 419%. So I do think that we're going to continue to see this thing move higher. So FCX definitely should be on your watch list, and you could possibly buy it at this level. So very good stock, and I think that's a great question. But I would probably not buy X, and I probably would look at buying a half position in FCX, not a full position, but a half position, because I do think it's looking kind of strong. All right, let's look at Boeing and Ford. Of course, F is the symbol for Ford. I was in this. I got shaken out. There's a buy point on Ford at 1214. It is taking a dump ski. So it for some reason I can't get enough love on this. It has just basically stayed right in this trading range, 1250. It's still a good stock. I mean, it's a good stock. I don't know if it's reversed higher, but if it has, then it may move up. The problem with Ford is it typically is a very slow moving stock, and that's been an issue for me with this one. Now with Boeing, it's a different story. At one time, Boeing was the largest, I think it still is, the largest exporting company in the United States, and this is the chart for Boeing. And unfortunately, Boeing it keeps trying to make some headway, but it keeps getting pushed back. As you can see, let's look at the weekly chart here. Kind of want to show you the weekly. Yeah, there we go. We were moving up very nicely, and then all of a sudden, not so much. I really think for right now, until we have the reopening, I think you've got to be careful with several sectors of the economy. One of the sectors of the economy is travel and leisure. Now, Boeing obviously isn't a travel and leisure stock, but it is selling jets is their business, and the travel and leisure business is buying these jets. So I'd be very, very careful buying a Boeing right now. And also be very careful buying any cruise lines, even though there are people that have made double their money on cruise lines. I just think that this area is very problematic. So that's my 2 cents on Boeing. So I probably will not be a buyer of any of them at this point, and that's kind of sad because you would think I could buy Boeing, but I just think it's going to not do as well going forward. So let's look at SE now. SE Limited. This is a Singaporean company, and it's just done tremendous. I first came across this last summer. I didn't even know what it was, but it has just been fabulous. It's up $8.55, or about 8.31%, just in this last week, and that's we're 2 days in this week. It's pulled back a little bit, but it's still in a buy zone. If you did want to go ahead and move into this one, you definitely could. This is a stage 4 cup with handle. It's not the best formation, but it's not bad. The pivot on this one is 258.60. So we're right there. We're at 267.14. We're definitely right in the buy zone. It's pulled back in the buy zone. You definitely could buy this one here, and it probably is. This is looking, at least from what I'm seeing here, like it probably is going to go higher. It possibly as high as 285.50 and above. So I think this one, SE Limited, I think this is a very good stock. You definitely could buy it here. It's got a 77 checklist, which is not bad. There are 1,145 funds in it. This is an increasing number, and some of the best funds are in it. Fidelity Contra Fund is in it, and this is a kind of the good housekeeping seal of approval, at least as far as I'm concerned. So very good look on SE Limited. So that's a very good question, and I think it may be it may be a very good stock. And I'm not in it currently, but the chart looks very good on SE Limited, and it is in a buy zone. So that's something that that we could definitely look. AMD earnings after close. Let's look at AMD. AMD is one of those stocks. I have tried to buy this numerous times and gotten shaken out. I just don't know what it is about me and AMD. But whenever I'm selling it, it's going up. So you got to give this one a lot of latitude, I think. It's up after hours. It had some very good earnings. Earnings per share were up. Let's take a look at how they look, how they came in. Yeah, they came in very well. 28% increase in terms of their sales, and their profits, that's the most important thing, were up 117% quarter over quarter. So they're doing something right there in Santa Clara. I think they're in Santa Clara. Yeah, no, Sunnyvale, excuse me. They're in Sunnyvale. They're doing something right there. Again, lots of funds in it, 1709. And some very good leadership. Nice cash flow. Look at that, $5.38 a share. Interestingly enough, the woman who is the CEO of, I said Archer Daniels Midland. That's wrong. AMD. That's probably the one he should have been in, is AMD. So my mistake. No, AMD is up too. Sales are up 53%. Profits are up 63%, which is actually pretty good. Actually, you know what? This leads to me. So, actually, what you ought to be looking at is Arthur Daniels Midland, Arthur ADM, and the reason is because we're going to see a lot of inflation in this country. This is not in the chip sector, of course, but look at that. Nice movement up, and it's up after hours, very strong. And of course, this is the company that manufactures all of those food products, and they're at, this is looking very good. 7 out of 9. The industry, just very good all the way around. So this is also one you might if you aren't necessarily interested in AMD, you might want to look at ADM, which is Arthur Daniels Midland. All right, so let's go here. Hey, Mr. Jim, your thoughts on LPX? Looking strong to buy for a position. You know what? LPX is one of the commodity stocks that's really good. It's of course, it's Louisiana Pacific. LPX is the symbol, of course, and this one has just been on fire. By the way, in terms of commodities, I think it's lumber that's been up the most out of all of the commodities out there. So looking very strong, up $2.96 today, or about 4.33%. So really, really good. Relative strength is 95 on this one. And, we've got earnings in 7 days on this. You know what? This one might actually be a very good spread play because it looks as if, and I'm just looking at the past here, 1, 2, 3, 4, for the last 4 quarters, their profits have been up, and not just a little, a lot. So this one might be a very good candidate in 7 days for a bull spread. And I'm going to put this down on my list, LPX bull spread, because um, it looks as if they are probably going to show a good number coming, this time. So I'm just looking at the chart. Yeah, we're right above the 10-day line. I like that. We're earnings in 7 days. We've got very strong accumulation going on, and boy, this is looking good. 61% owned by funds, and this looks very strong. Let's look at the weekly chart. Yeah, it's just moving right up the 21-day exponential line. So it doesn't seem like it's too. You have to check the slope of this, because if it gets too slopey, then it will pull back. But it looks, oh yeah, there was a large amount of buying prior to there's been a large accumulation here prior to earnings. So this one's probably going to go, and this is probably going to be a bull through earnings. So I'm going to possibly look at this one possibly for another spread trade. Looking very, very good on that. So thanks for that info. That helps me out a little bit as well. So it helps me sometimes spot some of these opportunities. All right. Do you look at stocks outside the U.S. in case? You know what? I do, but typically I want to see stocks that are trading either as probably on some of the U.S. exchanges. It's just that's sort of how I do it, just because most of my software doesn't track some of the issues outside of the United States, even in the Toronto exchange. But let's look at EVO. Let's see if I can. Let's see if it comes up here. No, unfortunately, I don't have charts for that one, so I probably couldn't give you an answer on that one. I'm going to try to get charts on foreign outside the United States stocks. A lot of the stocks, the bigger stocks, European stocks especially, trade on the New York Exchange, but that's not unfortunately the case here. So sorry, I can't really give you a good feel for that. I wish I could. Thanks, Christian. Let's look at Palantir and DKNG. So let's look at Palantir. Palantir has been a disappointment for me. I was shaken out of this one. I was very excited about this stock, and it just does not perform very well. And it doesn't really seem like it has come back. I'm going to show you the daily chart here that I have. I've drawn a trend line here. I'm waiting for this thing to break the trend line. It has not done that yet. Currently has a relative strength of 89, which is strong. Very strong, but it's still, I just don't like this pattern. So here's my take on, at least for right now, on Palantir. I just think unfortunately it's not it's not good. Let's look at DraftKings. This DKNG I think is probably looking a little bit better than Palantir. For one thing about DraftKings that I do like is that I do think that this is going to be a tremendous industry. I think everyone knows it. It's going to be a very big deal, online gambling, and of course they're probably in the best position to take advantage of this. Now that said, we've been in a consolidation for a long time. Really, there's a buy zone here. The last time we really had a buy point was at about 55.98, and it was way back here in December. And what happened was we moved up and then we moved down. Now, here's the problem that I see right now with DraftKings, and this is just me saying this. The problem with DraftKings is there were a lot of people who bought the stock as it moved above this original buy point here. I'm going to draw a red line here. A lot of people bought the stock as it moved up, and then they held on and they didn't sell. And then they held on and they didn't sell, and they held on, and now it's gone down, and now it's coming back up. Here's the problem. Everybody that's holding here is going to sell once this thing moves above about this line here. So this has a problem with what they call overhead supply. There's too much supply of shares that were bought above above this 55.98 buy point. So I right now I would have to take a I would have to take a wait see on this one. I think you need to give DraftKings more time. That's the reason why sometimes you have to wait and wait and wait until there's a larger base. But I think that's the case here with DraftKings. So I would probably not be a buyer of DraftKings either at this point, just because it does have an awful lot of overhead supply. And, I just definitely think in the long term it's going to be a good buy. But right now I think you got to be careful with it. So I would not be a buyer of DraftKings right now, just because of that overhead supply issue. Now let's look at Roku. This is a question that's coming from TikTok, and this is an interesting chart as well. Similar to DraftKings, we do have some overhead supply issues as it's moving above this level. Here's the problem with Roku. I'm going to draw a trend line right now. Right now, we can't buy it because it hasn't fully reversed. Okay. So the problem with buying Roku at this level is that it needs to move above this line that I've drawn here. The reason it needs to come above that line is because that is where the trend will reverse. That will be the trend reversal. As you can see, it's moved. It's come down to this 292.92 here. It bounced. It came up to the 50-day moving line. It moved through the 50-day moving line, but it ran out of gas, pulled back, and it now is trying to make an attempt at a lower angle. Here's the thing. I want to see it move really above about 400 before I'm interested in it. So right now, unfortunately, I have to say that this one is not potential for a buy. So you probably want to avoid Roku, at least for right now. It's a great stock. I really like it, but I just think it's, I just think we missed it. Is Path still viable? Well, I bought it this morning, and I probably shouldn't have. I didn't buy a very large position. I bought a very small position. I think I bought a grand total of 12 shares. But you have to be in a stock in order to watch it. So that's how I feel. So it's after hours. It's closed down 13 cents at 75. It seems like it's getting some sea legs here right at about 75. I bought it at 79, which was probably too high. We'll see what happens, but I do like the stock. I just think that IPO bases are super hard to buy. This is what this is, and it's really early. So, is it still viable? Yeah, but I wouldn't be going in with two hands here. I just wouldn't. It's just not a situation that is good as I'd like it. Okay, so let's see. Can you explain why Tesla has greater earnings and it went down? Yes, I can actually. Let me show you why. At least this is why I think it is. TSLA. This is what I've been talking about this a lot. This is called the reason this is having this problem is because of what they call overhead supply. And by the way, let me pull this off so that you can see it. The overhead supply is when you have a lot of people that bought a stock when it was too high. So let's go to the most recent high, and that was 780. That's why I always talk about this 780 level. Okay, so here's what's happened. When it was going up, everyone was excited. I was excited. I was in it right here, and then we rode it all the way up to about 900, and then it started failing. Well, the people didn't sell out. They didn't sell out when they could. 7% down. This is why you use the 7% rule. Okay. So they held on to it, and it continued to go down, and then it came up, and people got excited, and then it came up, and people got excited, and then it came up to 780. So people were saying, well, yeah, I'm just going to cut my losses here. I'm going to sell. So the problem is every time it comes up to 780 now, until we get rid of this supply here, we're going to have an overhead supply problem. So this is the problem. Even on good news right now, at least for the next probably 2 or 3 months, Tesla is going to have trouble making it beyond about 780. So that's the reason. And of course, when it can't make that, then it just kind of peters down. And now it's at 702. And it probably will be in a trading range, probably from about 680 or possibly as low as 600, but between about 600 and maybe 780. So right now, unfortunately, just not a good time to be in Tesla. That may change. I love Tesla. I'm a Tesla bull, and I've done very well with Tesla. But right now, it's just not the time to be in it unless you have a super duper cushion in terms of, in terms of in terms of the in terms of profit. Let's look at Erickson, and from that's let's look at Erickson. ERIC. This was a favorite about 10 years ago. I don't really know why there's been so much interest in this one as of late, but it just doesn't seem to be able to get to past about 14. Currently, it's at 14.14, so that's good. So it is trading in a relatively high range. There was a spike up here. I don't know why this was the case, but if we look at, and this is basically for Erickson really to become a hot stock again, it's going to have to move above this level of resistance here, and we're almost there. It's about $15. So I can't really see this being really that actionable until it moves above about 15. Right now, the relative strength on it is 60, which is less than I'd like to see it. 80 really you need, but it has had a nice run in the last few years, but it just hasn't been able to catch wind. That's the main thing. It just hasn't been able to catch wind. So it is trading right into its 10-day line, which is a good thing. It's above the 200-day, which is very good. This might be a slow but sure wins the race, but kind of stock. But I wouldn't be. I just think there's other better places to be. One of the places I would look instead of Erickson has been a Dow component stock, CSCO. It has been basically a laggard for 10 years, but I think it's acting better, and that's Cisco Systems, and that's the chart here. The reason I think this is acting better is because this has what they call a tight pattern. Okay, you can see how this is kind of tight in here. This is probably going to move higher, at least if the news is good. So here we are. It's taken almost 10 years to get back to where it was in 1999, because that's where it kind of was. Now we're almost back to where it was back 10 years ago. So it's starting to form a tight pattern. If you're going to be in this space, in the IP telephony space, this is probably the stock you want to be in, and not in Erickson, because this stock is poised probably to move higher because of this tight pattern here. So just wanted to kind of point that out. There, it's right at a buy zone on a flat base. Not necessarily the best buy zone that you could have, but let's pull back to the weekly chart. Yeah, we're right in this buy zone, and we're right at the top of the buy zone. So this one, if you want to be in the telecom space, probably I would recommend, as opposed to Erickson, this one, just because I think it's trading a whole lot better. So I have time for about 2 more questions here. Let's take a look, and thank you for everyone. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. Let's look at ATKR, and let's look at that one quick. ATKR. Well, okay, there we go. It manufactures electrical and mechanical products. I don't know, for non-residential construction. This might not be bad, because the constructions industries are doing very, very well right now. There's a lot of anticipation with this infrastructure spend. Their sales were up 14%, but more importantly, their profits were up 100%. Wow, and look at this cash flow. This is very, very good. Yeah, this is a very good one. This is very bullish. Let me kind of just do some more checking here. The checklist is excellent. It's 88%. There's very nice ownership from funds, 494 in it. The industry the rank is very good at 47 out of 197. So that's looking good too. So all in all, I think this is a very good stock. And look at that. I think we're right in a buy zone. So on the pivot, on the flat base pivot, the buy point on this one is 75.60. It's currently at 78.24. So we're right in a buy zone. So this is absolutely viable right now. ATKR. So thank you very, very much for that one. That's excellent. ATKR, it's in the buy zone as we speak. So that is a very, very, very good opportunity. All right. Well, Let's see. What are we looking at? Okay. Well, um, it's an hour is up. I will be back tomorrow at 2:30 Central. We're going to go through some earnings tonight. We're going to see how their trade. I'm going to see how Microsoft, see what the price is going to be on that. Of course, sort of disappointing with Tesla, but we're going through just a massive. This week is a massive earnings week, but there are some opportunities. Again, I did put out a bull put spread on Cloudflare today for everyone that's on the Discord room, and so that one is looking pretty good. And so, anyways, I will be back on tomorrow at 2:30 Central, 3:30 Eastern. Happy trading, and thanks everyone for taking a look. Tell your friends about us, and I will see you